Hey everybody, it is Chainsaw Gears 12 here, and I'm back with a new album review today. Today I'm reviewing the new album from All That Remains entitled A War You Cannot Win. I'm not going to go through the complete track listing, but I am going to go through the highlights of this album, in my opinion, my personal highlights on the album, and of course the full track listing and personnel is in the description. Let's go through my highlights. The first track, Down Through the Ages, You Can't Feel My Shadow, sorry about that, A Call to All Non-Believers, Asking Too Much, Intro, What If I Was Nothing, Sing for Liberty, Not Fading, and A War You Cannot Win. Now, there's 12 tracks in total, and I think I named about 8 or 9 there. But basically, when I first heard that All That Remains was doing another record, my first thought was, okay, because in my personal opinion, well, not my personal beliefs, but a lot of people who have come to know of what All That Remains is have heard their albums since The Fall of Ideals, which people claim that's their best record. In my opinion, I have to agree that The Fall of Ideals is their top-notch, on that pedestal, best record. And ever since then, the albums they've released, people have less liked them. Like the more albums they put out after The Fall of Ideals, the less people have liked their new material, or they just didn't enjoy the new record as much every time they released a new record. So when I heard that A War You Cannot Win. Sorry about that. I'm looking at it on the music player. But yeah, when I heard that the new record, I was kind of like, okay. And then I read where the lead vocalist was talking about how he said that this album's going to be different in a way. That there's going to be some differences in this album compared to their earlier stuff. So when I first heard that, I was like, okay, so they're going to change it up a little bit. So when I first heard the whole entire album all the way through, I would tell you guys, I was blown away by what this album is. And to the whole him talking about there's going to be some changes on the record, to me there's not really any changes. There is a ballad on this album. Like, per se, it's mostly a ballad, but to me there's not really a big difference, like a change that's going to scare All That Remains fans away. I think this album is basically them rejuvenating what they had on The Fall of Ideals and earlier stuff, and basically just, getting back to that style of, writing in the materials of The Fall of Ideals. Because a lot of the times I was listening to the solos, the guitar work, and the vocal style, and just the way that the songs were put together, reminded me a lot of The Fall of Ideals. So it made me love it even more. And the fact that the opening track, the very first track, that solo comes in, it's just really melodic and smooth, but it just sounds so awesome. And then it gets into the flashy Let's Go Crazy solos that we're used to hearing from All That Remains. So I was glad to hear that. And one key thing that I do want to mention is I was really, really happy that they did this. The bass is actually audible on this album. Their previous stuff, you can hear the bass in some spots, but when I'm listening to the whole entire album, I'm hearing the bass about 95% of the whole entire album. The bass is audible. You can actually hear it, banging against those guitars, making them louder, making it crunchier, making it heavier. So I was really, really happy that they were able to turn the bass up, because in past stuff, you can't really hear the bass that much, but when you do, it was awesome. But on this album, it's basically 95% of the album, you're hearing the bass throughout the whole thing. So I was really happy about that. Vocally, this album is basically what you expect from an All That Remains record. The screaming, singing, there's a lot more singing on this album than on the past stuff that I have heard, but I enjoy it. I enjoy the way that the vocals can go from clean and really melodic and peaceful to the heavy, screaming and yelling at you that you're known to from All That Remains. There's that double standard. You get boom, boom, screaming, singing, and it happens and they collide and it's good. It's a great, great fit on this album. You get both. You get both sides of the spectrum in a way. All to the guitar sound, it's typical guitar sound you're known to hear from All That Remains. Basically that crunchy, thrashy type sound, the heavy sound. Just basically, it's not really that changed. But, yeah, I just didn't understand why they were talking about how this was going to be a different type of album or have some different changes, because there wasn't really a lot of changes. But onto the songs of how they put the songs together. These songs have a wide variety of things that kind of took me for a little ride, because there was some riffs on this album that kind of threw me off. Wow, not in a bad way, in a good way, because I'm sitting there and I'm used to hearing the fast crunchy the triplets riffs, stuff like that, or the fast paced heavy riffs, something like that. But there's some riffs on here that are pull off, and you can just it's really low, really heavy type riffs. Just kind of threw me off. Some of the riffs just kind of threw me off in a way of okay, well, That's kind of cool. I haven't really heard any type of riffs like that from All That Remains, and it was good to hear. It was really good to hear. On to the fact that this album to fans might be the album that's going to get them back into All That Remains. I think that that's the case for this album. I think this is the album that's going to get the fans that were listening to the stuff in between the Fall of Ideals to now basically going, I don't really know. I think this album's going to bring back fans that kind of just went away because they're like, oh, that sounds like the other album. Oh, that sounds the same as this. I just feel like this album is basically a restart for the band. It feels like that they've really went back into a more of the earlier stuff writing in the Fall of Ideals and their earlier work than that. That's what it feels like to me. And so I was really happy to know that the band could do that. So it was really, really good. Basically, what are you going to be expecting on this album as a whole? Because a lot of people will say All That Remains is known for just fast, heavy riffs with the verses being the screaming vocals and then the chorus being the singing vocals. So what are you going to be expecting besides that stereotypical thing of All That Remains type songs? More than that. You will be expecting more than that. There is moments on this album where I was kind of taken back by musically what's happening. Because musically, I'm thinking All That Remains is known to just the fast, heavy riffs, the fast, thrash type style riffs, just the fast, heavy metal riffs that were known from All That Remains in their previous work. Some of the stuff on this musically kind of threw me back in a sense of, okay, this band has musically grown. Because in some moments, it's the typical All That Remains. But in some moments, you can hear the musical change, the musical enhancement. What's the word? Just they've evolved as musicians because the way that they're the way they're putting these songs together, the way that they're putting these songs as a whole, and how they're adding these transitions and how they're mixing it all in, kind of makes me think that this band has grown since their previous albums, because it just sounds like a more clean, crisp type sound from All That Remains. It just sounds like they're musically getting better. They're improving on how to, add stuff into a song, or how to, not put so much here or put more here or something like that, or how to write a solo or like that. It's basically, it feels like they've musically gotten better. Not saying that they were bad in the past. It just sounds like in some moments they've musically grown from this step to this step. That's what it feels like to me. So I was really happy about this album. This album really made me remember why I love All That Remains, because there's so much on this album that just made me remember the Fall of Ideals and the earlier stuff, and just what really got me into All That Remains in the beginning. So I was so happy that this album delivered what it delivered, because if I feel like if some of the songs that I did highlight, if they weren't on the record, let's say like instead of 12 tracks on this record, it was like 8, or like, there were 8 songs but they were longer or something, and some of the tracks I didn't highlight, I wouldn't enjoy this album as much. There was just so much good stuff on this album that made me love it. And I'm glad that they added 12 tracks on here, because the more the merrier, in my opinion. So that's the review, guys. Thank you guys for watching. If I had to give a rating for this album, I always say that, don't know why if, but I always do, I'd have to say this album, in my opinion, is a good 8.75, maybe a low 9 out of 10. There's nothing really bad about this album. I'm just stating the fact that there was some things that could have been improved, but that's okay. Because what we do have here is a really, really good All That Remains album that I think people will enjoy, and I think fans will come back to the band once they hear some of the material off this. So if you did hear these singles, and I know apparently there was one single that was released, there was 2 singles before the album was released apparently, or it leaked, and there was a song apparently that was kind of worthless. I didn't really pick out the song because I didn't look up to see what songs did leak or was single before I heard the full album, because I was like, well, maybe I can find it. I did not find a track that I really disagreed with. I loved every track, but the ones I did highlight, those are my favorite. So, like I said, thanks for watching. 8.75, low 9 out of 10. Something like that. Don't really know. But thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, like the video. And if you like me and you like my reviews, subscribe up there, wherever that subscribe button is, for more metal videos. And also, if you've heard the album, comment down below and let me know your favorite track. Okay, guys, see ya.